I'd like to introduce our next speaker. It's Michael Kearns, who's the Chief Strategy Officer and co-founder of Artemis. So, Michael, come on out.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody, and good morning. And just, I think I have a good follow-on from what Paul was talking about earlier. The theme of my talk this morning is more about like how we can look at. When I think of NaaS, I think of self-service. I think of full lifecycle automation. We're an automation provider, and we work with our customers. And when we work with our customers, they're saying, you know, we are delivering managed services today. You know, how are we going to evolve to become a NaaS provider? What are some of the challenges that we have? And it's opening up some new things. So we typically think about automation, we think about a network that's there, and you know, you're provisioning things on the network and you're monitoring the network. But actually, if you're a managed service provider, it starts way earlier than that. You're getting an RFP in a very unstructured format, and you've actually got to go and hand that to your experts, and they go away and try to figure out what's the best match for the RFP. So the kind of language they're getting in the RFP is, you know, I want a network that will connect all my sites, the different sites, my branches, my regional offices, my HQs, and you know, I want to connect them to applications running in the data center in the cloud, and you know, that's the language that's been used in the RFP. So there's, you know, they're receiving these RFPs. It's quite variable, but when you look at the RFPs, you're finding a commonality about that. But a lot of manual work, and it goes into a bit of a black hole for a while. And the sales guy's going, have you got the response? And the other guy's going, I'm working on it, but I'm working on 10 other of these ones. So I'm having a hard time getting to that solution, that proposal that we can send back to the customer. Because what he's working with is he's working with a lot of pieces. He's working with the overlay, SD-WAN, SASE vendors, and you know, this isn't a very structured environment. There's not really models that sort of say, okay, everyone's following a standard way of describing their offering. So, you know, they have to be experts, and they have to go to different silo teams of experts and ask them, you know, which is the best solution for this customer based on what we have. Obviously, they have the underlay connectivity. That's what we've been doing a lot here at MEF, is, you know, using those APIs, SNAT APIs, to, you know, buy services from third parties, or even internally, the APIs are used between different groups. So the enterprise B2B provider can be buying from the wholesale department to fulfill one of these customer requirements. And then you've got the managed service, you know, wrap. So you've got professional services, things like service desks, you know, different countries. You might have different service desks. You might have some consulting around that. And I mean, this is a huge barrier to NaaS, really, in effectively getting to that automation that you need. And the question is, okay, we got to solve this, right? So now we got to solve it by saying, okay, how do we automate that requirements capture? How do we, you know, then, you know, centralize that kind of knowledge that only exists in certain teams and certain subject matter experts within your organization? And then how do we scale this? And of course, the self-service is on the front end is the piece that the customer wants. The customer wants to be able to go in and still say, you know, I want a network that will connect all my users, but they also want the ability to change that network. So they want, in their own language, they want to be able to express, how do I actually make a request for a change to increase the bandwidth to this site, or add a particular feature to that site profile. So, you know, it has to be very interactive and available to them. You go back to the previous slide where, you know, that was all a heavy duty process and very static and one time, you know. So I think, you know, we've had self-service before, but self-service has largely been about kind of getting your observability of your network and seeing your network, and you can have some portals there. And of course, more and more people, as we had just heard, are trying to use APIs as well. They don't want to use a portal, they want to integrate directly. And we have several of our customers, I'll give some examples later, where they're using just APIs. So they're pulling back all the information that they need, but they're also making order requests just from the APIs via their own sort of centralized view of the world there, but they build their own pane of glass there. So we know for sure, we've heard it many times, that we should standardize and automate the entire NaaS supply chain. So, you know, that's been said, I think, many times in the conference. But just going back to this idea of how you would take that very early stage RFP or from in the customer's language, how you would capture those requirements. I think this is where we can introduce some new techniques, that are available today. So we know that these requirements are coming in an unstructured format, and sometimes as well, like even if the customer is expressing it, they want to have a more interactive way of expressing it. They can't quite articulate what they want, but you help them. You need to give them a tool to be able to help them to basically funnel it into an intent type model. So in the concept of intent has been around for some time, but it's been at a lower level in the network. So what I'm talking about is an intent model, and the idea of an intent model is it's capturing product requirements. It's capturing the requirements the customer has. It's not something you price up in its own right. It's something that expresses what their requirements are. So the idea is that you would then take that intent model and you'd have some way to match it to all the SKUs that you have available to you from the overlay, the underlay, and the managed service. And this will be using strategies, built-in policies for figuring out what to do. So the idea is we introduce this early stage to the process, and we extend the whole process by extending the life cycle back into that stage, the automated life cycle, by introducing an intent engine for designing the actual service. And this is a very powerful concept, this intent, because effectively you can run it today and get one answer, and you can introduce new capabilities tomorrow and you get another answer because you've brought in something new. And with those two, you can actually decide, I want to swap something out, I want to upgrade, I want to make a change. And it's very interactive, but they're separated in their role, basically. The intent gives the enterprise customer how they view the world, how they view the network, and the actual products they end up buying, or the components they end up buying, are expressed as SKUs, basically, from the different suppliers within their actual ecosystem, basically. And so they can keep onboarding new suppliers. They keep running the intent again, get new answers, and they're able to upgrade and take advantage of those capabilities. And of course, once they've done this intent, they need to do the formal process of going out and ordering all those pieces, whether it's an internal supplier, whether it's an external supplier. They need to order it from the different parties and track the order and make sure that they're coming on stream for the network itself. A couple of real-world examples that we're working on. I think this is very important. So one company that we work with, SES Satellite Company, I've probably mentioned them a few times in my thing, but I think they're one of the most innovative companies in this area. Very early on, they decided we're going to adopt standardized APIs for customer self-service. And they chose the MEF APIs, and we've been working with them for quite some time. Now, this is a company who has both enterprise customers and wholesale telco providers who will buy from them. Their enterprise customers would be like the big cruise ships, cruise companies who are buying services. And if you're ever on a cruise ship, you'll know there's 5,000 people there and they've paid a lot of money for internet services. I was on one this year myself, and I know exactly how much you have to pay. And my kids were, we got to pay. You got to give me the money. I'm saying, no, you're not buying that internet for the whole duration when it's costing me €1,000 to pay for it. So they've got a lot of people on those ships, and they want to get information about the performance of the network. They have to guarantee the network is up. So the very first thing they did was they helped us. We worked with them to take the standard that was kind of incubated and drive it to a full standard within the MEF. And now they've moved on. They're offering all the ordering process and everything via the APIs, the MEF APIs. And more recently, now we're just about to go live with the trouble ticketing piece as well. So they do offer portals, but for their bigger enterprise customers, they want to use APIs there. And I think there's a lot of things going on there. In the back office systems are based on TMF. Typically, it's typically a standard process. So we're seeing a lot of kind of common, repeatable patterns here, where throughout the stack, you have to go offer APIs in the front end, which are well defined, like the MEF APIs. mapping those into the back office systems, which are typically TM Forum in many of these companies. And we can optimize then how, as Paul was talking about some of that stuff, how to build a connection between your back office systems and what you expose to your customers. Second one is one that we're getting going with, is a large tier 1 NaaS provider, a NaaS and wholesale provider in MENA. And they're looking at self-service APIs and portals, enterprise and wholesale again. They have a range of services. Actually, they're one of the broadest range of services of our customers that they're looking at in terms of connectivity. All of the MEF 3.0 services, all of the DWDM, and the IP services as well. And that's kind of doing the basic connectivity at the moment. But we think in the future that will evolve to looking at the overlay pieces as well. They have multiple NatCos, so they're using APIs between the different NatCos and OpCos that they would have. So a way to coordinate. If you're out there acquiring and buying other operators, how do you actually bring them into your network? Well, MEF APIs are a great way of doing that, because they're just additional suppliers in your network itself. Again, TM Forum back office APIs. And then the final one I talk about is a tier 1 NaaS provider, coming from the journey of a managed service provider to become a NaaS provider. And this is exactly the example I was talking about earlier, where we've got to simplify the process and the journey for their customers, allow for the self-service versus the heavy consulting upfront. So these types of tooling that I was talking about, this intent-driven design approach, is something that will help them greatly to scale, to offer self-service from the very start, right through to the delivery of that solution for their customers. If I was kind of summarizing it all, I think there's a lot of things we need to think about, but the most important thing is what's the end game that you're trying to go to, because it's going to take you many different phases to get there. People have been working with back office systems. We're delivering enterprise networks largely. There's a lot of manual stuff going on today. How do you actually go towards that goal of automating the full life cycle? So I think there's some key things that you need to get right. I think the open standards, decentralized architecture is very important, so that you're in control and you're actually not getting locked into any particular vendors. You're basically, I'm standardizing how I deal with my ecosystem, and I'm able to choose different suppliers and different onboard suppliers as I can and as needed as they come on stream. The intent-based AI-assisted design, I think it's fundamental. We're going to be really stuck if we're a managed service provider and we're trying to, move to a self-service, and it takes months to get that initial service design back from your service provider. It doesn't feel like NaaS. It feels more like a managed service with a different sort of a different name on it. Comprehensive self-service, as I mentioned, that's throughout the life cycle. APIs and portals. API first strategy. Should always think about the API first. You should have, if you have a portal, you should see the same operation, same data that you have via both places, and that doesn't always happen. We've seen people develop portals and then say we got to develop APIs, and the customer goes in, makes a request for data, and they're seeing data tagged, it's labeled differently, it's different type of data, and they're trying, well, how do I correlate what I'm seeing in a portal versus what I'm actually seeing over the API? And I think, I said that open standards for all interactions with both the customer and the suppliers. Just simplify your life, streamline it. If you've got a couple of hundred suppliers, just say, I need to have a common set of processes with all these guys. If I start taking some processes with one guy and other processes with another guy, then the customer experience is brutal, basically, if you do that, And then follow the phased approach. Pick conquerable, commercially viable use cases, because it's going to go on for quite a while to get you to that point, right? So nobody has the big, long investment cycle. They like to see a return on investment as they go, and there are ways to actually introduce the capabilities, the NaaS capabilities with the self-service without, and at the same time, earn some money as you go, basically. Thank you very much. Thanks.